This lens used to cost $20,000, but now you can pick it up for pocket money. And that's just one of my top 5 criminally underrated lenses that you can get for cheap. New lenses are fun, they're nice, they're shiny, they have lots of really great features like autofocus and custom buttons and all sorts of stuff. But the downside is that it's very expensive to get lots of them. Personally, I think a much better approach is to spend less money on lots more cheaper lenses so that you can build up the sort of library of different looks and focal lengths to experiment with. Plus, one of the best things about vintage lenses is that they're old, which means that they're cheap. They've lost all the value they were going to until someone talks about them online and then they get overhyped. Am I part of the problem? But another great benefit is that you'll probably be adapting these lenses to your camera system. You aren't locked into a lens mount. You can put all of these on a Canon or a Nikon, a Sony, Lumix, whatever. So if down the line you decide to sell your camera and switch to a different brand, you don't have to sell all of your lenses too. You can just buy a new adapter. And adapters are cheap. I use these ones and I've never had a problem with them. They're linked in the description. Also linked in the description is my Instagram and our Discord, just saying. So let's start here with a Helios, but not the one that everybody, including me, rants about. That's the Helios 44-2, and it is a good lens, but now that the hype train has kind of taken off, there's so much more to think about. People obsess over which factory it came out of, and there are even resellers who categorize them by serial number, and it's all a bit much, not to mention more expensive than it needs to be. That's where this bad boy comes in, the Helios 44M. 58mm f2 based on the Zeiss formula, just like the 44-2, but I, believe it or not, prefer this. One big reason is that this lens has a more regular type clicked aperture ring, which is way easier for photography than using the weird 2-ring declicked situation on the 44-2. Does it swirl? Yeah, but not as much as the OG. You really have to know exactly what its sweet spot is to get that super swirly look, but I actually prefer my swirly on the subtle side. I just really like how this lens renders overall. It does get pretty washed out wide open, but I tend to shoot with deep focus anyway, and at f8 it looks great. Now, 58mm is a bit of an odd focal length, sure, but I've been really enjoying using a 28 and 40 combo lately, and so this makes much more sense as the next step up rather than a 50, which would be kind of too close to the 40. The best part about the 44M is that depending on where you are in the world, you can get these for literally pocket change to about $50 on the high end. Even including the price of whatever adapter it is that you need, that's still well under $100 for a seriously fun and capable lens. Speaking of serious fun, we'll both have serious fun if you pop somewhere down there and click on the subscribe button so we can hang out and talk about lenses more often. Next up on the list is this big chunker made by Pentax. I'm sorry if you're around children. The Pentax 6.7 135mm f4 macro. It's kind of the ugly duckling of the Pentax medium format lineup. Everyone, including me, loves the 55 and the 105 from Pentax, but this 135 seems to get skipped over quite regularly. Maybe because it says macro on it, but you don't have to use the macro, you can just use it like a regular lens. Besides, it's not a true macro anyway, but it does focus very close. Now, what makes this lens special is, well, Pentax were feeding their engineers very well when they designed their lens lineup for the 6x7 system. This is no exception. It's amazingly sharp, it has vibrant, gorgeous colors, great contrast, and 3D pop. And as an even bigger bonus, since you're adapting this to obviously a smaller sensor than 6x7 film, you're only getting the middle part of the lens where it's sharpest and cleanest. Adapting it is a little tricky, I will admit, since it's such a gigantic lens mount. You do have to get a gigantic lens adapter, and they're a bit more expensive than regular adapters. This one was sent out to me by Photodiox. I've linked it below. It's pretty decent, but it is chunky, and so that does mean a little more weight on your lens mount. I try to make sure I'm mounting on a tripod with the foot and not the camera body when I'm using this. And let's just say it's definitely not an everyday carry lens. If you can handle the weight though, you can pick these up on eBay for like $100, which is absolutely mental in terms of image quality. This lens looks so good and it's pretty hard to beat. My first 135mm was also a Pentax lens, but it was this one for 35mm film, and it's not great. It's got loads of chromatic aberration, and so I never quite got along with 135. until I got this. Speaking of Pentax full-frame vintage lenses, let's go down a few sizes, shall we? This is the Pentax M 28mm f2.8. It's a bit more practical, hey? This lens is all over eBay for like 50 bucks, and you'd think that that means that it's not that good. Wrong. This lens built my whole career as a street photographer. It did not leave my camera for about 3 years. Everybody who likes street photography should have this lens, and not just because it's a cheap 28, and not just because it has that gorgeous, organic Pentax look we all know and love. But before I explain why I basically made my entire photography portfolio with just that one lens, first, I'm going to ask you why you haven't made your own photography portfolio website yet. Because it's easier and quicker than ever with the help of today's video sponsor. Framer is an all-in-one website designer, and it makes it so quick and easy to create and publish websites that by this point, you really don't have any excuses not to have your own portfolio. If you want proof of just how easy it is, this guy managed to make slowshutterspeeds.com. I used Framer to build a reference guide for using slow shutter speeds to get cool effects. Let me show you. First, I had a little browse through Framer's massive library of templates, and I picked one that was good for showing off photos. And then literally all I had to do was upload my photos, type in what I wanted to say, and I was done. It's quick and easy, and now you can use it to look at different examples of slow shutter photos with the exact settings that I used. Even if you're not a professional photographer, having a place online that you completely control where you can showcase your art is priceless. But aside from being super easy for people of my skill level, or lack thereof, Framer is a really powerful tool, so if you are a power user, you won't feel held back. It's got super advanced analytics, you can run A/B tests and all sorts of stuff, you can use localization to translate your website so that people all over the planet can see your ideas. So after this video, or this weekend, after you've gone out to take some photos, sit down for an afternoon and build yourself a website to showcase your art the way you want to, with Framer. Obviously. Launch your site for free at framer.com, and while you're at it, use the code HunterCreates for an upgrade on the house. There are links in the video description. Thank you very much to Framer and to you for your continued support. We all know by now that I love 28mm lenses, but I've never ever found one that is as perfectly optimized for street photography and zone focusing as this. The focus throw is perfect. The focus ring is not too light, but it's still light enough to quickly flick it to where you need it to be. It's got an amazingly clear distance scale in both feet and meters, and just specifically for me, it's got orange markings at f8 and 3 meters. You know, a lot of the time when we talk about lenses, I think we obsess over how the end image looks, but I think it's just as important how the lens is to use. And this is 1, extremely fun, and 2, extremely easy to use. It isn't, though, the best 28mm lens in the world. This one is, and no, it's not cheap, and yes, I will be doing a video on it in the near future, so subscribe for that. And the icing on the cake for a 28mm lens is that if you use it on a crop sensor camera or in crop mode, it's equivalent to a 40. All of that in such a small, compact package is insane. Even with an adapter, this thing is still tiny. Ugh. But this isn't. The absolute opposite of the 28mm is this Nikkor 50-300mm f4.5 zoom lens, and it is cartoonishly big and heavy. On release, adjusted for inflation, this lens would have cost about 20 grand, but now you can get them for 300 to 500 bucks. It's mental to think that in the 70s, photographers would have lusted after this lens and thought, man, maybe one day, and now we can buy it for like cheaper than most third-party lenses. The zoom range of 50-300mm is certified bananas, and so is the weight and size. This thing is all metal and glass, and you absolutely under no circumstances are allowed to hang this off your camera's lens mount, or you will break your camera. Another way you could break your camera is by trying to mount this to a Nikon DSLR without an adapter, because this one isn't an AI lens, and no, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about auto indexing. This will work on adapters perfectly fine, including the FTZ, and it'll go on older Nikons that are friendly to non-AI glass, like this F3 for example. But as long as you don't break your camera with it, you'll be fine. Unless you break yourself. Did I mention that this thing weighs 2.3 kilograms? That's 5 pounds. And that doesn't sound like a lot compared to your bench press numbers, but hold it out in front of you all day, and it is. That's a hefty trade-off, pun intended, but the range that you get, plus the fact that it's parfocal, plus the fact that it has that gorgeous, soft pastel look to it, I think it's pretty worth it. Just maybe pack some snacks if you're hiking up a mountain. There is a slightly newer AI version that has much better coatings and is a bit sharper, and that might be the way to go if you're using this mainly for photography, especially if you're shooting birds or something like that. But because I'm using this one for video, I wanted the older one because the softer look works better for me. You know what else is soft and looks good? My latest drop on shop.huntcreatesthings.com. And finally, the most expensive lens on my list of cheap lenses is this, the Nikkor 16mm f2.8 fisheye. I know it doesn't really count as vintage. The fisheye part is kind of obvious, it's insanely fun to shoot with, but this fisheye specifically is quite special. It's very sharp and contrasty, and the photos have, you know, that typical Nikon professional look that a Nikon professional lens gives you. And because it's f-mount, you can adapt it to anything, which you might have to. Even though fisheye is a really trendy look right now, there are not a lot of first-party lenses available. Cough, Nikon, cough. A really cool trick that this one has up its sleeve is that it's actually super easy to correct the distortion. You can just tick the lens corrections box in Lightroom, and this turns from a fisheye into an ultra super duper wide, and that's kind of two lenses in one. It's also obviously super easy to manually focus, and if you really need lots of deep focus, this will do that. It is a specialty lens, and I don't use it as often as I like, but when I do pull it out, there's nothing else that I have in my entire kit that would do the same job. Sure, it's a little annoying that you can't put filters on the front, and if you want one of the rear mounted ones, good luck. But other than that, this is a legendary lens. Now, if all of that has got you gassed up and ready to go on an eBay binge, take a breath, it's okay. Watch this next, and I'll de-influence you. Stay hydrated and create art.